Well, greetings. I am so happy to be back with you again. This is Linda Clinard, and I am so grateful that Orange County United Way has invited me to do another time with you to share everyday literacy fun with information and activities from my book, Family Time Reading Fun. And last week was our first week, and I introduced myself and I introduced my family, and then we did some activities together. And first we're going to go back to a little bit of what we did last week. Well, let's take a quick look at what we did last week so that we're ready to go into some things for this week. Last week I shared with you when I was 2 years old, I grew up in Chicago with my mother and my dad and my grandmother we called Juelita, and how I spoke Spanish till she went to heaven when I was 12. Then we weren't supposed to speak Spanish anymore because we were in America, but I encouraged families to speak both languages if you have two languages at home. And then I shared about how what our children love to do when they were young is really having an impact on what they're doing now. Where Anne loved to cook and have me take pictures of her. She's now a top food photographer. Jeff loved to talk in anything that had a microphone. He became a comedian in Hollywood and now has his coffee business, Bear Coast Coffee, down in San Clemente, and trains everybody to speak openly and respectfully to his customers. And Trevor loved to sleep with adding machines and numbers, and now a businessman with business and finance degrees, and has his own wine selling business and other things that he does related to numbers. And then we read 2 books. We read the Pudgy Peekaboo book, and then we had a fun activity called Sentence Scramble, where we scrambled the sentences and unscrambled them, and hope you could enjoy some of those kinds of things with the books you read. And then we read Come With Me. We unscrambled one sentence, but we did something else. I asked questions before, during, and after reading the book, and then we did a story map where you could do this at home, and there's story maps in my book, but you can just draw circles or whatever you want to do to tell what were the characters in that book and the setting. And we did all of this after we read it, and it helps us put together what we read and remember what we read. Well, each week we're going to start, as we did last week, with sharing with you keys and important ideas about literacy that we have to remember when we're helping our children at home. And the first key we shared last week was literacy is more than reading and writing. We need to remember that listening, speaking, thinking, reading, and writing are all important, and that young children particularly start by listening, speaking, and thinking. Even before they learn to speak clearly, they can communicate. This week, we're going to talk and share a key called Everyone Has Literacy Strengths. You look at what your children do. Are they strong at listening, at reading? Russell loves to listen into earphones and listen. And Hazel loves to read to her baby sister. Or are you a thinker like Cohen and Maddie, their brother and sister? And they're thinking about something there. And look at Cohen, he's thinking and he's holding my arm and saying, Or speaking, even if you're not speaking to another person, just like Russell, he lives on a farm in Fallbrook, he loves to sit and talk to his animals. Here he's talking and speaking to his goat. And there's Dashiell, 4-year-old, almost 4-year-old Dashiell, loves to write, and he was so excited when he started to write his name, and he could write D-A-S-H. Now, young children, he knew the rest of his name. He saw the letters on a piece of paper, but he wrote the rest of it over here going in a different direction. And that's very common for young children because we're in a world today where we call it three-dimensional. It doesn't matter if this chair is here, sitting up as I am right now, on its side, it's still a chair. But when children learn to read and write, they learn and need to learn that the direction of the letters makes a difference. And that's what Dashiell's in the middle of learning. So here are all those possible strengths that we need to remember to always stress a strength. Jeff used to talk, and we were so glad he could. And we wanted to stress that. And then you nurture a need. He wasn't always as patient when it came to writing, but we just helped him along the way. When you're nurturing someone, you help along the way. The other thing that we're going to share each week are the influences on literacy that I share in my book. I share 5 influences. I shared the first one last week. It was about attitudes and interests. If children are going to learn and read and write, it really helps to find out what they're interested in. Here Russell shows you from the time he was a year old, he loved cars, crane, anything with wheels on it, and he still does and loves Hot Wheels. The other important influence are the physical factors. Can the children see clearly? We learned last year that our Maddie needed glasses to be more comfortable reading. Hearing, there's that Russell again with his earphones. Hazel, fine and gross motor skills. That's fine is using that hand to make drawings or writing words. Gross motor skills, jumping, playing games, maybe sports. And then eating and sleeping habits. Russell loves to help his mom cook, and it's so wonderful that he loves to cook vegetables. And our new little Hannah loves to sleep. And the sleeping habits all make a difference in how children will be successful at learning to read and write. Well, I'm excited to read to you again today. We're going to read 2 books. I'm not going to call them stories because they're actually books that are called nonfiction and have information, but are so much fun and so colorful. An activity that we're going to do is called Picture It. I'm going to be reading to you, and if you could get some paper and markers or crayons or pencils, and as you listen, draw what you're hearing. Because here's Anne when she was about 6 years old. Her brothers loved to hear her tell the story, and they would draw pictures as she would tell the story. Here, Hazel is listening to her mom read the tale of Peter Rabbit, and she's drawing all these pictures. It's a way to picture in your mind and on paper what you're going to be hearing in the story or what you do hear. And this is the story that we're going to read today. Shapes. They're museum shapes, and we'll talk about what that means in a minute. Well, the first book we're going to be reading today is called Museum Shapes. And it is called Museum Shapes because it comes from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. And they're the ones who put this together, wanting children and all people of all ages to see that shapes are all around us. Now, as you listen, draw, and you'll be doing what we called Picture It. So we're going to start by reading Museum Shapes. Well, I tell you, you draw something. What shape decorates the Harlequin's costume? What's a Harlequin? That's somebody who acts but doesn't say words. They're called pantomimers. And so here's this person thinking, how am I going to act? But let's look at the costume. Can you tell me, and can you draw what kind of shape you see on that costume? That's right, it's squares, wasn't it? And there are squares all over the museum in so many places. With art, you see squares around there, around on the walls, and that's the first shape. Well, let's find another shape. What shape is the wheel? I'll bet you know. What shape is that? Are you drawing that shape? Let's see what it is. Yes, it's a circle. And so many circles in the museum. We saw that there was a wheel that had a circle. There's another one that he's making, and another one, and a beautiful painting that's got a circle all around it. And look at that, a beautiful image with flowers that are all in a circle. What shape are these flags? You see the flag? Boom, boom, flag. We've got them from Canada, from the United States, from Great Britain. What shape are those flags? Are you drawing the shape? That's right, it's a rectangle. Rectangles are long on one side and shorter on the other, aren't they? And look, they have rectangles on the wall. Doors are in the shape of rectangles, and we can see other things that are. What shape is that man's hat? He's a painting that's in the museum and has a very special shape of a hat. What is it? Let's find out. Yes, it's a triangle. Tri means 3. So how many sides does a triangle have? 1, 2, 3. And look, even a sailboat has like a triangle above the door. Triangles, they're everywhere. And what shape is the woman's hand mirror? Here's a beautiful painting where she's holding a mirror and looking at herself. Do you know what this shape is called? That's right. Did you draw an oval? An oval is a long circle, and it's not really a circle, it's longer than one. And faces are often thought to be in the shapes of ovals, and you'll see oval, oval, oval everywhere. Wow, so many shapes, and this one's a very special one. What shape is the opening of the cliff? Boom! It goes up and around and down. Can you draw that shape and call it an arch? We see arches under bridges, in hallways, on beautiful buildings, don't we? And what shape is the moon when it's like this? We know sometimes it's a circle, but sometimes it looks like this. And what do we call it? Yes, it's called a crescent. And there are many other things that are in the shape of a crescent. It circles around with pointy ends on each side. And what shape is on the baby's jumper? Boom, 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 boom. It's got 4 sides to it. It's a diamond, yes. And we're not talking about a diamond ring, we're talking about a diamond shape. And a diamond shape has the 4 sides with points all over. And there's some diamonds at the end of these books. There's diamonds on that wall. And what shape is the man's book? Do you see it goes down, around, and around? And they even drew the shape here to give you a little hint. What shape is that? That's right, it's a heart. And we want to think of heart with happy thoughts, don't we? And we're almost finished. Let's see, what shape is the angel holding? What is that? And what do we see all over there? That's right, that's called a star. And we have so many stars that we can look around to see on paintings, on people's clothes, on walls. And that is our last shape. Did you draw any of those shapes and remember what they were? Do you remember what the shape of the wheel was? Well, I hope you have happy memories of shapes. Well, we're going to read another book. And again, I'm not going to say it's a story, but it's a fun information book. It's called If You Hopped Like a Frog. There's the frog, and there's a boy trying to hop like a frog. How far would that be? I wonder. And while you listen to this story, you can also have some paper and markers or crayons and maybe picture it, draw pictures, and then we'll do a different activity after we finish this. But let's listen to what the author, the writer, said about if you hopped like a frog. He said, and his name is David Schwartz, and it's illustrated by James Warhola. Dear reader, Mr. Schwartz said, when I was your age, most of my friends wanted to be astronauts, athletes, and actors. I too dreamed of traveling in space, hitting home runs, and starring in a movie. But there was something else I wanted to do. I never told anybody. I wanted to hop like a frog. I imagined soaring through the air, that's going far, with grace and ease, landing gently on my big springy legs. How far could I hop? I also wanted, are you ready for this, to eat like a snake. A snake can open its jaw so wide that it can swallow prey and food wider than its head. I knew it would be very bad table manners to eat things bigger than my head. Still, I wondered what I could swallow if I swallowed like a snake. And when I realized that answering these questions took just a little bit of math, I had a great fun astonishing and surprising my family and friends. Once you know that a frog can jump 20 times its body length, you can figure out how far you could hop if you hopped like a frog. 20 times. If you're 4 feet tall, 20 times there, that's 80 feet. Let's find out how far that is in our story. And when you realize, a snake swallows food twice as wide as its head, you could find out what you could eat if you snacked like a snake. In fact, there's no limit to what you can figure out. It's simply a matter of math and numbers. How about that? But we're going to find out what he discovered. He found out that if you hopped like a frog, where would that take you? Look, you could jump from home plate to first base in one mighty leap when you played baseball. Can you imagine not having to run all the way, just jump like a frog? And look, if you were as strong as an ant, here's a teeny tiny ant who's picking up a leaf, how strong would you need to be and what could you lift? Oh, wow, look what you could do. You could lift a car if you were as strong as an ant. Oh boy, here's a dinosaur called Brachiosaurus. If you had a brain, the brain of a Brachiosaurus, wonder what it would be. Your brain would be smaller than a pea. So a Brachiosaurus has a small brain. Wow, if you swallowed like a snake, you could gulp a hot dog thicker than a telephone pole. Whoa! And if you ate like a shrew, the shrew is that tiny little creature down here. It looks a lot like a mouse or a rat, but it's called a shrew. You could devour over, are you ready for this? 700 hamburgers in one day. So that little creature eats a lot of food, doesn't get that big, but could if you were eating like a shrew. If you high jumped like a flea, oh, this poor doggy has fleas jumping out and around, you could land on Lady Liberty's torch. That's over in New York in the harbor. Whoo, Statue of Liberty. You could jump from the ground all the way up to the torch she's holding. And if you flicked your tongue like a chameleon, that's that animal on his shoulders, You could whip the food off your plate without using your hands. Uh-oh, but what would your mom say? Mom doesn't look too happy, does she? And if you craned your neck like a crane, you would have to stretch your arm way up. Look at that, to scratch your head. And if you had eagle eyes, eyes like an eagle, you could spot a running rabbit from way up in the clouds. And if you dined and ate like a pelican, look what you do. You could slurp triple, 3 times root beer floats in one mouthful. And if you grew as fast in the first 9 months after you were born as you did in the 9 months before you were born, wow, how big would you be? Oh my goodness, you would be towering taller than a mountaintop and heavier, are you ready for this, than 2.5 million elephants. So I guess it's good that you slow down your growing after you're born, but you grow very fast before you are. And if you scurried like a spider, you could charge down an entire football field in just 2 seconds. And if you hugged like a bear, wait a minute, you already do. The end. Well, I hope you enjoyed. If you hopped like a frog, did you learn about some things? Well, this is an activity that's in my book called I Know Grid. And this is when you read something that's about an informational text or a nonfiction book. Think about these things, and I've already filled in the top part of the grid. But before you read a book about information, what do I know about the topic? And I was thinking about that, and I know that when I've read that to my grandchildren, I'm Grandma Linda, that one of the things, when one of our kids saw the title, If You Hopped Like a Frog, he said, what do I know? I know I might be able to jump across the yard. I thought, whoa, that's really cool. And that's what he said. And so, what do I know? I could jump far if I hopped like a frog or jumped like a frog. And what do I think the author will share? And again, I'm going to tell you what our grandchildren, one of them said, I think he's going to talk about other animals too. Yes, so other animals, and we'll learn about them and special things they can do. Special, and did we do that? Yes, things they do. Well, after reading, what are some of the important facts that were shared by the author? One of the things that I know surprises a lot of people is how tiny that Brachiosaurus's brain is. Wow, that's important, that dinosaurs, and I like the Brachiosaurus, and I'm gonna just shorten that so I don't have tiny brains. So we don't want brains as tiny as theirs, do we? We like our size brains. And then to see how strong an ant. Ants are strong, aren't they? And we could lift a car if we were as strong as an ant. That would be fun. And so many other things we learned. Well, what are 5 things I learned about people, places, events, and other information? Was there something new that you didn't know before? Did you learn about the frog? Wow, jumps. How many times? 20 times its size. And we're not going to list, I'm not going to write all of them, but I know that some of the other things that our grandchildren said, shrew. I don't even know what a shrew is, Grandma. And so we learned what the animals were. We learned what they could eat, how much they could eat, and we would have to eat if we kept up with them. So there were many other things. And what do I still want, this is our future goal, know about this topic? And one of our grandchildren said, I want to know how fast I have to run like a racehorse. A racehorse? Yeah, on a racetrack, Grandma. Oh, okay. Run like a racehorse. Well, you didn't have that in there, I don't think, so we'd have to find out. I'm not sure. But those are some things that you could do after you read. And there's also a game you could play that I'm going to share with you now. Well, let's play a game now. And we're going to take words from If You Hopped Like a Frog and play a game called Word Speed Up. There were many words in that book. And when you're wanting to learn to read words quickly and remember them, this is a fun game. And our Russell loves Word Speed Up. And this is how we do it. In fact, I can show you that he's got a little paper just like this, and it has numbers 1 through 6 on it. And on each one of these spots, we have 5 words from If You Hopped Like a Frog. And we'll see if in 2 minutes, I'm going to put the timer on. Oh no, let's just do it 1 minute. Let's see how many of these words you can take away from me, okay? Okay, here goes. You throw the dice, and it says 2, and I lift the words, and it's, what is that? That was in there, mountain, crane, good job. Hamburger, remember that shrew and all the hamburgers? And that tiny brain. And hop, good. And when you read all the words on a space, you get to hold them. Let's throw it again. See if we can get number 6. And how fast? Shrew, bear, ooh, pelican. Do you remember these words? Tongue, remember the long tongue? And lift, good, you took another one away. And let's see what comes next. 2's gone, so we go to number 3, and we read spider, neck, wow, and what's that? Home plate, remember you could jump to home plate if you could jump as far. Flea, as a frog, smaller. We took another one away, and let's throw it again, and did our time go up? It didn't tell me it did. Maybe I had. Our time is up. How many did we empty? 3. Good. Usually we play Word Speed Up for 3 minutes and see how many, or 5 minutes, and put about 5 or 6 words from a book or from what you've read or written, and put them on those spaces to practice reading them quickly. So I'm sure you'll have fun playing Word Speed Up. Thank you for being with us again today. I hope you saw last week and you're here today, and we want you to stay tuned. Please stay with us on Facebook Live right after the video. And if you ask a question or comment during the Facebook Live session, then you could be in a raffle to win a copy of my book and a bundle of books from Orange County United Way. Thank you.